What happens when our brain runs on ketones? Research says pretty amazing things. Personally, I have been on a high carb diet pretty much in the beginning of my weight training journey. Although I had energy for my workouts as my glycogen stores were always full, but it came with increased body fat levels, mood swings, frequent energy crashes, which required tons of coffee to stay in the game. My sleep was not that sound. Overall, there was more nervous energy and frequent thoughts of what I will have for my next meal. Many years back, I decided to lower my carb intake to less than 200 grams per day, mostly between 75 to 150 grams per day. Although this is a low to moderate carb diet, which I cycled with being in ketosis for no more than 3 months a year. Ketosis is between 30 to 50 grams of carbohydrates per day, and I have never felt better. Even though I was addicted to coffee, but a lot of things changed for better. My focus and productivity went through the roof. I was able to concentrate on my work better. I slept better. I fasted from 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. in the morning and had my first meal, which was almost always a 4 whole egg omelette with veggies cooked in coconut oil and sometimes a small slice of whole wheat bread. This meal kept me satiated and completely satisfied until about 6 to 7 p.m. That was the time when I had my dinner. So between that time, there was absolutely no craving or hunger. This, my dear students, is one of the biggest benefits of being on a high-fat diet. Not only it optimizes your hormonal levels, as discussed in the previous lecture, but it allows stable mood and increased energy. This has a lot to do with the metabolic changes that happen when we go into ketosis, especially when it relates to the brain. Now let's briefly discuss the sciencey part of what really happens in our brains that allows for more mental clarity, better focus, and therefore more productivity. Ketones, as we have discussed, are an alternative fuel for the brain and the body. When there is no glucose available, fatty acids break down into ketone bodies in the liver. So the first point is that ketones are a more efficient source of fuel than glucose. According to Dr. Joker, fasting and a ketogenic diet are some of the most promising methods for upregulating mitochondrial biogenesis. Mitochondria is an organelle present in every cell of human body. It is the powerhouse of the cell where energy is produced. It also plays a protective role towards the DNA. According to Dr. Gabriela Segura, consultant cardiologist, ketones, contrary to popular belief and myth, are a much needed and essential healing energy source in a cell that come from the normal metabolism of fat. The entire body uses ketone in a more safe and effective way than the energy source coming from carbohydrates, that is sugar, aka glucose. According to authors Douglas Wewe and Vincent of the paper titled Mitochondrial Energetics and Therapeutics, mitochondrial dysfunction has been linked to a wide range of degenerative and metabolic diseases, cancer, and aging. They concluded the paper with this statement that ketone bodies production through intermittent fasting and the ketogenic diet is the most promising treatment for mitochondrial dysfunction. Ketones don't just provide energy, but they provide a more efficient fuel source when compared with glucose. Glucose metabolism yields 36 ATP molecules, whereas fat metabolism yields 48 molecules of ATP. Glucose metabolism causes more oxidative stress and the creation of free radicals, which in turn will speed up aging, whereas beta-hydroxybutyrate, BHB, which is a ketone body, is associated with a reduction in the generation of reactive oxygen species by mitochondria. By the way, the reactive oxygen species are the contributors of oxidative stress, which leads to various diseases and disorders such as cardiovascular disease, cancer, aging, and various neurodegenerative diseases. Second point, ketones help increase BDNF. BDNF stands for brain-derived neurotrophic growth factor, and it's a key neurochemical responsible for the growth and maintenance of neuroconnections. You may have heard of the term neuroplasticity, and what simply means is the ability of human brain to rewire and rebuild itself to form new neural connections and network and reinforce the old ones. BDNF improves all forms of plasticity. Essentially, more BDNF your body generates, more powerful your brain gets. And studies have shown that a ketogenic diet is said to increase BDNF levels. And by the way, exercises of all forms, consuming more omega-3 fatty acids like krill oil, also increases BDNF, whereas poor sleep, sugar, and stress reduces BDNF. Ketones can help maintain the delicate balance of GABA and glutamate. Glutamate and gamma aminobutyric acid, that is also called GABA, are the most common type of neurotransmitters, accounting for nearly half of all the brain's neurotransmitters. Both these neurotransmitters are opposing to each other. Glutamate acts as a general stimulant to the nerve cells, whereas GABA inhibits them. Like all neurotransmitters, too much or too little of either one leads to problems. An excess of glutamate is a primary contributing factor to a wide variety of neurological disorders like autism, Parkinson's, migraines, multiple sclerosis, anxiety disorders, and seizures. GABA's primary role is to calm the brain, slow things down, and relax you. Insufficient levels of GABA can result in nervousness, anxiety disorders, attention disorder, aggressive behavior, and much more. Low levels of GABA is said to unconsciously pull one towards alcoholism, drug addiction, and carb addiction, as these things can temporarily increase GABA production, but in the long term, these things deplete the neurotransmitters, only leading to more problems. Bottom line, when GABA is low, glutamate is high, and vice versa. You may think of glutamate as the accelerator and GABA as the brakes. Both are equally important. Now students, please note that glutamate is actually a precursor to GABA, and an enzyme called glutamic acid decarboxylase, also known as GAD, is needed for glutamate to make the conversion to GABA, but there are several factors that may interfere with this enzyme and impede the conversion process, which means a buildup of glutamate and inhibited the formation of GABA. Now, studies have shown that a ketogenic diet increases the GAD enzyme, and neurons can use ketones produced from ketosis as a precursor to GABA. Therefore, following a low-carb keto diet would be ideal diet for maintaining balance between GABA and glutamate. To further provide more weight into this matter, you will hear most people reporting more mental clarity, improved focus, less anxiety after being on a ketogenic diet, usually after a week or 10 days. And lastly, ketones can help with Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is the most common cause of dementia, a general term for memory loss and other cognitive abilities serious enough to interfere with daily life. Alzheimer's worsen over time. Alzheimer's is a progressive disease where dementia symptoms gradually worsen over a number of years. In its early stages, memory loss is mild, but with late stages Alzheimer's, individuals lose the ability to carry on a conversation and respond to the environment. Alzheimer's is the sixth leading cause of death in the United States. Although studies are very few whether a ketogenic diet can reduce the symptoms of Alzheimer's, but concluding evidence in these studies shows promising results. Now guys, ketogenic benefits are much more than discussed in this lecture. In the next lecture, I will discuss with supporting scientific evidence how a ketogenic diet can be super helpful in the most common medical conditions. Keep listening with amazement.